Hi everybody, it's Sarah Cray with Let's Make Art, and I teach watercolor, a new tutorial every week, and this week we are doing Spring Sunset.
If I could yodel, I would yodel.
This is a yodeling project,
Yes.
isn't it?
Yes.
So we will be doing this project in 5 steps. Our very first step, we will kind of lightly sketch our layout, and we will paint the sky. Our second step, we will do the foreground mountains. Our third step, we will do the mid-ground mountains. Our fourth step, we will be painting our flowers and our grass field. And our very last step, if you guys want to do it, is we're going to add some little bit of clouds to our sky. And that's it. We are using 4 colors for this project. The paint brand is Dandelion Paint Company, which is our in-house paint company. And the colors are Azure Blue, Rose Red, Orchid, Tiger Orange. Those are our 4 colors, okay? The paint brushes we are using are our round 2, round 6. These are our go-to brushes. We use them for pretty much every project. So if you're interested in painting more than one project with us, highly recommend. We're using a medium butcher tray palette and water.
Agua.
Tap water.
Unfiltered.
And we have a paper towel and a pencil to draw. So let's get started. Oh, our oath.
Oh, snap.
If you can raise your right hand and repeat after me. I promise to be kind to myself.
I promise to be kind to myself.
I promise not to compare my work.
I promise not to compare my work.
And I promise to have fun.
And I promise to have fun.
And I love starting that way because, gosh, we get into our heads when we're scared and we start comparing, and then it takes out all the joy. And then we're mad. That's not the point of this hour. We're here to just chill and have fun. And even if your painting turns into a hot mess, because sometimes it does, happens to me, it happens to everybody, it's just a piece of paper. All you got to do is throw it away, start again. No biggie.
Fresh start.
Fresh start.
Yes.
All right. So let's go into step 1. I taped my paper down so I can have a clean edge, and also this is a water heavy painting, like we're painting the whole thing and using water. So our paper will warp and kind of start to buckle. So I tape the edges so it doesn't, it will still a bit, but not as much as if they were untaped. And this happens with a lot of watercolor paper, actually, the buckling. So it's just what it is. Okay.
What if there was a paper brand called The Buckling?
The buckling?
The Buckling paper.
Or
And the plot twist would be, it never buckles.
I know that there are tricks that you can do to help, like some paper comes on blocks, so it's glued on all 4 sides, actually on the pad itself. You can also prep your paper by wetting it beforehand. That's supposed to help. Taping it.
Taping it.
Or I iron my paintings actually after they're done.
You iron them?
Yeah, if they buckle too much, even if I prep them, sometimes they still warp.
Like as a punishment to the paper. Like you
No.
paper.
No, I just take my iron and I iron my paintings.
Oh.
There's a lot more steps in between, but
Got it.
I do that too.
Wow.
Let's get started. Sorry, you guys, we're just going off here. Okay, I have a pencil because we're gonna sketch. And you don't have to be good at drawing to be able to do this. So what I want to point out is this painting is essentially in thirds. The bottom third is the grass field, the middle third are our mountains, and the top third is our sky. So let's go ahead and divide up our paper. I'm going to kind of sketch in my grass field. You can see it's not an even line. I don't want it to be a perfectly even straight line. Okay, and then I have my mountains here. I'm going to start. And this isn't my top one, it's this one, okay? So I'm gonna start about halfway and kind of just start to go down, kind of is at the lowest point here, and then it's gonna go back up. You can make this line uneven, you can make it sharp, you can make it smooth. It could be a hill or it could be a rocky mountain. Do whatever you want. Then I'm gonna start with my foreground mountain, so I'm gonna go about 1 inch, maybe not even above that. Have that go up, go down across, and then kind of right here, which is about in the middle, go up again.
I'd like to visit this place.
It'd be pretty, huh?
Yeah.
It reminds me of The Sound of Music.
Oh.
The hills are alive, you know?
Doe, a deer.
I love that movie. Okay, and then I'm gonna draw a tiny little circle right here, because that's gonna be my sun that is setting. Okay? That's it, you sketched it, good job. If you wanna like put in flowers and stuff, you can, but this is a really loose painting, so really embrace these loose lines, embrace whatever you drew, be kind to yourself. Okay, so we're gonna start with our sky, and we are going to do a color transition from blue to pink to yellow. Okay, so I'm gonna start with azure blue, and I'm gonna add a little bit of orchid to my blue. If you do a lot, it's gonna turn it like bright purple, so you have to like be mindful of how much orchid. Okay. And if you want to use a wash brush to do this part or a paper towel to do this part, you can. I'm gonna wet the area. Now this water is blue because I just rinsed my brush, but that's fine because I'm painting this area blue, so it's not a big deal.
That's convenient.
It is convenient. It's also like a lot of watercolorists will have 2 jars of water in front of them, one for cool colors and one for warm colors. Super handy thing to do. I cannot commit to one color in each water glass. I can't do it. I've tried, but if you guys are noticing that your water is turning to mud a lot, that's something that can help you. Okay, so I take this blue and I put it in at the top. Just kind of spread it. The area is already wet, so hopefully that color is already starting to spread out on its own a little bit. Then I'm going to introduce a little bit more orchid into it. Okay, so it's starting to go to kind of like a purple.
This makes me feel like a pastel-ish hint of pastel colors, and I really like it.
And then I'm going to mix a little bit of my rose red with my orchid. Get purple. And then now I'm going to do rose red just on its own. And then I'm going to mix a little bit of my tiger orange with rose red. Start getting like a peach. And remember, we do kind of our clouds at the end. Oh, look, I did a water drop there.
Oh, dang.
That's okay. You can leave it because it's kind of cool.
It is cool.
Or you can just
Or you could just erase it.
Or you can just paint over it.
And just take it completely off the painting.
And just destroy Keenan. Okay. And then now, using my tiger orange strong color, which means not as much water, I want it to be super vibrant, bright yellow. And that is going to meet up with the peach. And you can even drop in more color after you wet it to just get it really like bam. Blend out from there. And that's step 1. That is our sky.
Beautiful sky.
Okay, now we're going to move into step 2. We're going to do our foreground mountains. So, with atmospheric perspective, the thought behind this concept is that you have to account for the atmosphere in the world, like in the earth around us, as you're trying to communicate space. And so even though we might not be able to tell that there is like air in between us as we go through, we can see it when you look long distance. Things tend to get a lighter value as you travel through space. And I have seen a thread in the Facebook group a little bit recently. There's a little bit of confusion around that, because I also say that if you want to bring something to the foreground and highlight it, you make it a highlight, and that's going to make it pop, which does not coincide with the atmospheric perspective. And that's because we're trying to communicate two different things. With the atmospheric perspective, we're trying to communicate depth in space. With the highlight and the shadows on a three-dimensional form, we're trying to create form. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does.
It's trying to communicate two different concepts, and it's all done within a two-dimensional surface, which makes it kind of confusing because they conflict. But you just have to remember. So when you're creating your own painting and trying to make your rules, you have to think, am I trying to communicate depth and space over, like, and I don't mean just in terms of three-dimensional form. I mean actual faraway mountains, faraway house, faraway lights, faraway, like, how far away is this? Or am I trying to communicate form? Am I trying to communicate that this is three-dimensional? So does that make sense?
Yep.
Okay. So I know that that gets tricky, but just think about it that way as you're making your own paintings and trying to think about these rules. The other thing that I want to say is, depending on your light source, those rules might not be true. Light informs everything when it comes to painting. Light, where you put your highlights and your shadows, it all depends on where your light source is in that, because light is how we see, right? Like,
Right.
If there's lack of light, it's just black. How we can tell the texture of something is how the light is hitting that texture. That's how we can tell what it would feel like. And so if you're looking at a reference photo that is taken at a certain time with certain lighting that is opposite to the rules that I'm telling you, follow the reference photo. These rules that I tell you are just general guidelines that I have learned that for the most part, these are true, but you can absolutely come across something that says the opposite thing, and that's just because of how the lighting is. Okay?
Nice.
Okay. So, that little spiel was perfect because now my sky is dry and we can move on to painting. So you want to make sure your sky is dry, and we're going to mix kind of a light purple. So I'm going to grab a little bit of orchid, I'm going to grab a little bit of azure blue, and I'm going to add water to that to make it a light value. And I'm going to paint my faraway mountain, my farthest mountain that's away from me. Okay, and I'm using my 6. And then I'm just going to use water to blend down. And you can overlap a little bit since we're going to be adding a darker value each time. And if you want it to feel even more foggy, you can do like a darker area on the top and kind of let it fade to a lighter value. And then that will make people be like, oh, there must be some fog going on in there. That's misty and, you know.
Mysterious.
Yeah. Okay. And now we're going to add more colors together to make a darker value for our second foreground mountain. So I'm going to do more azure, I'm going to do more orchid, and then I'm going to do a little bit of, you can do tiger orange and rose red. I just want to kind of desaturate these purples just a little bit. So I'm adding the other two colors, rose red or tiger orange, to take away from the vibrancy of the purple a bit. You don't have to do that if you don't want to. This is your painting. So if you're like, I want these mountains to be as vibrant as humanly possible, then don't add those colors. Okay. And I'm going to add water to this because, again, the darkest value mountain-wise is going to be the middle ones right here. So I don't want to do this one a super dark value because then I have no room to go even darker here. Make sense?
Totally makes sense.
Okay.
Makes me feel like I should go camping.
Yeah.
Maybe on a hike.
Can't you just imagine a little tent right there or something?
Yep.
Okay, now we're going to put in this color.
What's your favorite camping dessert?
Oh, well, s'mores.
Okay. Have you ever had a Dutch oven dessert?
I feel like I might have, but like, tell me more.
Okay, so Dutch oven, you're familiar with.
Yes.
Cast iron pot.
Yes.
So one of my favorite desserts in the Dutch oven is this, I think it's called a turtle cake. It has marshmallows, chocolate, and caramel in it.
Oh.
And it's like a breading exterior.
Okay.
It's almost like just a wonderful pie, but it's baked inside said Dutch oven, and it's a little smoky, and it's just wonderful.
That sounds phenomenal.
Yeah, big fan of camping foods.
What's your favorite kind of like toasted marshmallow? Are you like a burnt toast or like just evenly browned?
It
Or
needs to be evenly brown. It's tough to get that without having like a super mushy inside. Because like if you cook it too much, it's going to be that black burnt. But if you cook it the right amount, is the center cooked? You don't know. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's tricky.
It is tricky. Okay. All right, that's our second mountain. And I think that feels pretty good. And then for our, and you can utilize your paper towel, like let's say I wanted to even out this wash. And smooth it out. Okay, now our middle mountains. Before I go into that, because I want to make sure this is dry since I overlapped quite a bit, I'm going to put in the flowers on my field because I'm the type of person that like, time is precious sometimes, my friend. You know what I mean? I have young kids. It's like I can be doing another step while another area is drying, so that way I'm not just like sitting waiting for things to dry. You know?
Totally.
Okay, so even though this is technically step 4, or step 4, but we're still on step 3, we're doing it anyway.
Wow.
So I'm going to grab my round 2, and I'm going to grab some orchid, and I'm going to do some, when making flowers, I never necessarily think this is the flower I'm trying to recreate, unless that's the purpose of the painting. The purpose of this painting was to communicate a sunset scene in spring. So I wanted flowers, but I didn't have a specific thought of flowers. So you can do daisies, you guys can do whatever you want. I guess these flowers are kind of like, they kind of remind me of blue bonnets a little bit. Like,
okay.
They're like sections of flowers off of a stem, you know?
Yeah.
But you guys can adjust that. So I kind of just have dots that kind of like come up to a point, like so. These are the ones that are very clearly more in the foreground. And then I did like a deep blue too, or a deep purple. So I have like the orchid, which is like a pink purple, and then I have like a blue purple also. You guys can utilize your rose red if you want some red or pink in there. Okay. And then to communicate that there is depth in this flower field, the flowers right here on the bottom are going to be the biggest ones, and then as they move, they'll get shorter, like, and thinner. Okay, so it's just like they'll be poking out over here, kind of thing. Maybe more over here. So you can do little dots and textures, but they kind of like gather together instead of like individual flowers that you're seeing. Does that make sense?
Totally. Yes.
Okay. Okay. All right, now let's see if our mountain is dry. Yep, now we can Now we can do step 3, our mid-ground mountains. So I'm going to mix the darkest value I can by pretty much mixing all of my colors together. But I do want more of a blue undertone. I'll probably have to do more piles to mix some green grass later on. That's okay. Okay, ooh yeah, that's a dark value. Okay, we ready?
Ready.
And now, just taking this dark value, painting it. Now this one, I'm not gonna really use my paper towel that much because paper towels tend to lift the pigment off while it's smoothing it, and I want this to stay dark. So if you got to do 1 or 2 layers, that's okay too. If you want to try and get like the area wet first, kind of like this, and then drop in that color and spread it, you can do that. And then I kind of wanted some like, I don't know, just like an uneven edge down here. So I'm letting my brush strokes come out. I'm not making it perfectly smooth.
Yeah, that looks super cool.
Okay.
Kind of makes part of it look like it's more sloped than other parts.
Yeah. Okay, and then just do this other side as well. Now this one I'm kind of wetting the area first, and then I'm going to come in and drop in that gorgeous dark color.
That looks nice.
And sometimes I like it, like this happened in the painting where there was like a bloom that happened there that created a lighter value.
Yeah.
I kind of love it when things like that just randomly happen. So I can see that kind of starting to happen here, and I'm gonna let it be. I'm not gonna touch that. I'm gonna just let that, see what it does.
And you're not going to erase it later, right?
Only if I know that you really love it.
Okay, well, I won't tell you then.
Okay. All right. Now we're gonna move on to step 4, finish up step 4, which is pretty much just putting in our grass. So I'm gonna mix green by using my tiger orange and my blue. I gotta put a little bit more on my palette here because I got a little bit mixing happy with this dark value. Azure blue, tiger orange. All right. And then I kind of just painted around the flowers. And you can tell because there's white space around my flowers.
Why did you do that versus painting flowers after?
Because if I tried to, and you can do this, if you wanted to, you could perfectly lay out where your flowers are going to go with a pencil. Paint all of the grass. When that dries, paint your flowers around, like wherever you left white space for those flowers. That takes a long time, and that doesn't sound like a good time to me. So I didn't do it because I feel like even though there are white spaces in my grass, I don't feel like it takes away from the scenery that I'm trying to communicate. And there are multiple ways that you could do it, where you can do like, you section off the area, paint around, and then paint in the flowers. You can use masking fluid to try and keep those areas white while you're painting a wash. Or you can like try and perfectly do green around these flowers and like just be really detailed and not have there be any white space. I'm just gonna let there be white space. Okay?
Got it.
So I'm gonna start with this kind of yellow-green here. And if you wanna drop in a little bit more brightness kind of right. And try not to touch your mountains because they're pretty wet still. If you want to wait for your mountains to dry completely before you move on, you can. I feel pretty confident about being able to leave a little bit of space, and even if it doesn't and it like catches and bleeds, that's okay.
Another happy accident.
Another happy accident.
I was gonna say, before you put green in there, it looks really cool just as a white paper. And it might be neat to do a light blue similar to the sky to like portray water or ice.
Oh yeah. Like you could probably like adjust the colors of the purple mountains and take off the flowers and have this be a snowy scene.
Ooh, yeah.
And if that's the case, and if your field is more like white from the snow, then it would actually probably have the colors of the sky reflected on that snow a little bit.
Like barely their colors all over it.
Yeah. That kind of match with the sky, which would be so pretty. Okay. And then now I'm going to take this darker green that I mixed and introduce that. So even in my grass, there is a slight shift of value and hue. That is feeling good.
You could probably use for the closer detail ones, you probably use your round 2, huh?
Yeah. And what we'll do at the end after this dries is use our round 2 and just put a couple little stems in on our flowers and stuff and kind of detail it up. Okay. We're on to our last step. We're going to put in our clouds. Now I just want to say that maybe you did a color transition where you're just like, that sky is banging. I don't want to touch that. That's beautiful. You do not have to touch it, okay? But if you want to put in a little hint of the wispy clouds, we're not doing big like rain clouds, we're doing like wispy clouds. You totally can. So what I'm going to do is grab a little bit of rose red. I have rose red, I have purple, I have my tiger orange. And the sky is a little bit messy, so don't stress if it's not perfect. We want it to feel almost like the sky's clouds are made up of brush strokes. I mean, this is feeling very textural. So I'm going to take some of this rose red, mix with my tiger orange, and then I'm going to start kind of putting in just wisps here, okay? So here we have some, and a little more rose red. I'm going to introduce some of that over here. Okay. And then I'm going to mix rose red with some orchid to get kind of like a pink purple. It's going to be over here. Okay. And then as it gets more, so you want to kind of look at the colors around it too. So as I get a little bit higher in the blue, I'm going to do more like a blue purple, okay? And if you guys maybe just want me to, if you want to watch this part before you paint it on your own, you totally can. Okay, so now I put these in, and now I'm just going to take water and kind of just start to spread this out a little bit, pulling from the colors that's already there. And doing color transitions too, where I'm like, okay, that orange against that yellow feels really nice, and I want that to kind of fade into almost like a pink over here. So I'm going to introduce that while it's still kind of wet. Okay.
That's nice.
Thanks. And then same thing, this, I'm gonna start to kind of blend out this kind of pink area. And then if you want, since it's getting close to this yellow, maybe just underneath here, there's a little bit of yellow. Like on that side that's above it, so that that sun is kind of reflecting off onto some of these areas. And then as this kind of rose red goes, maybe that's when we start to introduce a little bit of orchid or some purple into here. Okay. And then same thing, we're going to blend this little guy out. And I'm just kind of doing horizontal brush strokes, kind of letting the colors blend and bleed into each other.
I really like that red one.
This one?
The
This one.
upper one, yeah.
This one?
Yeah.
This?
That one.
They all have red, except that one.
Top left.
Top left.
Yes.
Okay.
That's my favorite.
Well, then I won't touch it. I'll leave it alone.
Thank you.
And you can see at this point, I'm kind of just working some areas, kind of blending some stuff. And I am going to get blooms. Remember, blooms happen from uneven water distribution and drying times. That's okay. Blooms aren't bad. And I think I actually might lift up some of this yellow that I put in here. I think it just became too strong because I want that to be the brightest yellow. So I lifted up some of that yellow, and then I'm going to come back in with some red and turn it a little bit more peach. Okay. And sometimes what I'll do is like, I'll go in and just kind of do little tinier ones around here, like little itty bitty hints. I didn't really do this in the reference, but it just feels like I should. Okay. Cool. And our very last step, if your green is dry enough on your grass, is grab a dark green and just do some little grass stems kind of coming out here where our flowers are. And if you want to introduce like a little texture too, you can. All right, let's remove our tape. And if you want your painting to dry more flat, then I would leave your painting taped onto a surface for like a day before you untape it. Because this is still fairly wet, so I'm untaping it now so we can have the reveal, but it will dry more warped than if I were to just leave it taped to the surface for like a day. Wow, I'm getting lucky with no bleeds.
Serious.
If you're like Sarah, what's your favorite tape? I would say maybe wait until May.
Goodness.
All right,
Wow.
it's done.
Beautiful.
Thank you. Gosh, that sky, that came out, you know?
Serious, I know.
So vibrant.
Oh.
All right. Thank you guys so much for painting with me. Can't wait to see what you guys come up with, and everybody's is gonna look so different because there is no outline. We're mixing all of these colors, you know what I mean? Make this your own. If you're in our Facebook group, you can share your work. That's called Let's Make Art Watercolor. If you're on Instagram, you can tag us at Let's Go Make Art or hashtag Let's Make Art. And the point of sharing your work, I know it's so scary. And I know that there's sometimes this idea that the only time we share our work is because we want to be like, you know, look at how talented I am. Look at all my skills. And you kind of feel like you're asking for compliments, or it just feels like a really vulnerable space, and it's scary. And also the idea is that you can only share work that's perfect. And I think that that's why there's kind of this myth that you're either born with this ability to paint or draw or you're not. Because we only share things when we're super comfortable and confident and think it's perfect. And I just think that the way we can break that down is if we just start sharing our work wherever we are, and then utilize that community to help us learn. Because if you're beginning and you're just like, I keep running into this problem, I don't know what I'm doing wrong, and you share it, then someone, if you ask for it, can say, oh, the reason why you're having a hard time with this is because this and this and that, whatever. So the benefit of you guys having this community that is filled with a lot of people in lots of different stages is really for you guys to learn from each other. And for people who are more advanced in watercolor, do not think that there is nothing new to learn. Sometimes when people approach something brand new and don't have all of this history or preconceived ideas and trainings, they will approach things in an interesting way that can make you think about something differently and say like, oh, I never thought to do it that way. Wow, I'm gonna try that. So anywhere you are, you can still learn. And that's what I hope you guys take away from this. So share your work. Thank you guys so much for painting with me. Keenan, always a pleasure.
Thank you.
We'll see you guys next week. Bye.